Hello, everybody. Good morning once again to all our beautiful viewers out there. We want to say thank you for joining us in another episode of Director or
Distractors.
Distractor.
That's right.
Welcome once again. And this morning, we still, especially during this pandemic, we know that it is so crucial to everybody. We still continue with this discussion of mental health, understanding our mental health during this pandemic. Like I said, it's very, very important. And with
It
us in
is,
the
yeah.
studio this morning, before I continue, please don't forget to share. Click on the share button. Like we always said, we do not know who might really be in need of this,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
Um,
It's important because everyone this season there's mental cases around. I mean, it's serious. It is serious. It
yeah,
is
because of
serious.
this
So,
pandemic, right?
yeah.
It's so new to, especially us this time around. It's very, very new to us, and that is why we really want to focus on this issue of mental health. We want to nail it. We want
That's
people,
right.
yeah, we really want people to be encouraged to really understand what is going on
Absolutely, yeah. We want to make
mentally.
sure everyone gets the information that they need to be mentally alert and to be mentally stable, mentally mature, mentally alert, and function in the proper way. Okay, yeah.
Yes, my name is Kemi Oyeyola.
And I'm Sam
I'm,
Oyela.
yes, thank you so much for joining us again. We have with us today our guest is a nurse, and I'm just gonna read a little bit of about our guest to you. His name is Gregory Nyobole. Gregory is a nurse and a community mental health worker with the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority, working with clients in downtown East. He has also worked with the WRHA Crisis Response Center, Crisis Stabilization Unit, and Siloam Missions Health Center,
Salami.
serving the homeless in Winnipeg. He is a personal trainer and certified Zentangle teacher. He is a lifelong learner on a never-ending journey for well-being, insight, and faith. He serves as a board member for Reconciliation Thunder, a non-profit organization developing transformative relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians to implement the 94 calls to action of the Truth
And
and
reconciliation.
Reconciliation
Yeah.
Commission. And the next face you're going to be seeing will be Gregory. Good
Hello,
morning.
good
Hello.
morning.
Good to
Thank,
have you here, Greg.
Thank you for welcoming me today.
Good to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Sure.
honoring our invitation, Greg.
Yeah.
Greg, we've been talking about pandemic. Oh yeah, I'm so sorry.
Before we go, that
Mm,
there's need for to recognize the Campolo
mm.
residents community, the 215 children. Greg, would you want to take it up from there, and then we'll be able to meet you and tell us if you about yourself.
Sure. Maybe I'll just do a treaty acknowledgement as we
Absolutely.
start, just
Hmm.
recognizing that we're located on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories, and we acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. And, this was really brought to light again, this past week with the revelation of this 215 children in unmarked graves, a residential school, and just another tragedy, just reopening all the tragedies of the past and opening those wounds, causing pain and grieving. And, you know, they were saying that had these 215 children lived, there could have been maybe 100,000 descendants from them now, 4 generations later. And so
Right.
we just acknowledge the loss to our Indigenous brothers and sisters, and again, continue to pray for healing in our land.
Amen.
And
Amen.
yes,
Yeah.
good. good way to start this morning.
Sure. That's right. Thank you very much. So, yeah, let's tell us about yourself, Greg.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a nurse now. I work as a community mental health worker, and the mental health is a big enough challenge, but when you throw a pandemic on top, it's really thrown all of
Mm,
us for a bit of a
mm,
loop. Not only
mm.
staff and clients and individuals, but families throughout our land. And I was just reflecting that it's been, I guess, about 15 months or so since this all started, and
Mm.
thinking of the different stages. I remember the first week or two back in March of last year when the streets were bare. It was like an apocalypse in the city, and now we're getting a little busier and trying to pretend nothing is going on around us, but it's
No.
still very dangerous. For me, my clients are very vulnerable to COVID-19. I, in fact, just last week had a loss of a client who died from COVID-19. And 3 weeks before, we were shoe shopping together.
Mm.
And it just shows how precious life is and how fast it can be taken. And, that's the tip of the iceberg. Many Canadians and worldwide have lost family members.
Mhm.
We've lost many family members. My wife is from South Africa, and many people have died in the outbreaks there. And so we just acknowledge the tragedy. When you invited me, we sort of had the concept of talking about the pandemic and understanding mental health and spirituality.
Mhm.
And really, that ended up being such a large topic. I think I think we've decided to maybe split it into two parts and maybe
That's
talk
right.
a little bit about mental health, some basic stuff today, and then integrating that with spirituality in another show.
That's right.
So it's exciting to do that. So getting back to your question, Kevin, I work as a nurse, and on the front lines, it is difficult because a lot of nurses like myself, we were redeployed from our original jobs and put into other roles. For many months, I was actually working at Thunderbird House doing COVID testing. And so, that involves sort of retraining to learn how to do the swabs and to set people at ease while they were getting the test. I spent sort of most of my time trying to reassure people and just prepare them for the test and make it as comfortable as I could under the circumstances and alleviate their fear. And then as staff, we also had fear of contracting corona. Even though we were wearing our protective equipment, everything was still unknown. And by the grace of God, I've been safe from that,
Amen.
and praise Him daily for myself and my family and others. But that takes a mental health burden, not only all of us experiencing the pandemic in our families, but for caregivers as well. So my heart just goes out to all of our listeners today, and acknowledging the stresses and experience they've had during this past year and a half.
Mm. Mm. Wow. Thank you very much, Greg, for sharing
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really want to appreciate you for being, at the very front of this
Mm.
war. All the nurses out there, we thank you so much. All the, you know, we really, really appreciate you.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
like
Yeah, the frontliners.
currently I've been able to return to my main job, but I'm also, in part of that, I'm still helping delivering vaccines to
Okay.
homebound individuals. So it's much more pleasant helping with the vaccine than
Oh.
doing a COVID test.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah. So we just dive right in because I know. And then please, wherever you're joining from, let us know wherever you're joining from. We really appreciate you for being uh, help network. We just encourage you to please help us share it because you don't know who might need this, and then you are helping someone out there. Thank you very much once again for joining.
And if
All
you
right.
have any question, right, you can just post it there.
Yeah, if you have any question, do not hesitate to post your questions. Okay, thank you. Right, so Greg, we'll dive right in, and with the first question here.
Sure.
I am suffering emotionally. Where do I get help? Icebreaker
Well,
question, eh?
yeah. Well, really, the best place to start is reaching out. I can't emphasize that enough. Don't isolate and try and deal with it by yourself. Reach out to those supports around you. That can really be all of the natural supports in your life. If you're a person of faith, reach out to God. Absolutely, start there. Your higher power. Reach out to your family, your spouse, your partner, or your significant other, family, friends, other family members, colleagues at work or school. Reach out to pastors. Reach out to elders. Reach out to those you consider advisors. When we feel emotionally well, we're usually cheerful, calm, and interested in life. And having that wellness, we can comfort and support others around us. And likewise, if we're not feeling well, then we need to reach out to our community. So that's really the best place to start. I would recommend connecting with whomever you can. Talk to someone you can trust, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Men in particular have difficulty identifying emotions and talking about them. And everyone has different comfort levels. With social engagement, we might be introverts or extroverts. But if you're, feeling your emotions are off, it's time to seek some help and connect with someone else.
Wow.
And we can be comforted from scriptures as well. Matthew reminds us, don't be anxious about tomorrow, and tomorrow has enough worries on its own, and each day has its own trouble. So just focus on where you're at today and reach out for help. And David in Psalms reminds us, why, my soul, are you downcast? Why are you disturbed? Put your hope in God, for I will praise him, my Savior and my God. So reach out. Don't do it all alone, for sure.
Great. Yeah.
Nice.
That's absolutely great. And now, the other question I have here for you is I can tell if I have a brain problem or a mind problem. How can I figure that out?
This is in mental health. Sometimes we do need to start with some medical advice to sift through those symptoms, because sometimes there can be physical illnesses involved, such as epilepsy or Parkinson's disease or multiple sclerosis. Those are disorders that affect the brain, and they're considered more of a neurological disease rather than a mental illness per se. Whereas mental illness is more sort of disordered or problematic thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. There's lots of different ways to categorize mental illness. And so, we need to sort of start seeking some medical and professional advice to filter through some of that. And unlike some physical conditions where, a simple blood test might reveal the cause of something that's out of alignment in the body, it's definitely not like that with mental health. We don't have the luxury of a blood test or an X-ray to to pinpoint the issue. But some of the things that might indicate if you need to consult with a doctor about mental health concern is if your sleep or your appetite has changed a lot,
Mhm.
or if you've noticed like a drastic or dramatic change, or if your mood has been changing, if it, you experience a rapid shift in your emotions or depressed feelings.
Okay.
If you notice some withdrawal from social interests and friends or loss of activities that you previously enjoyed, or if there's really a drop in your functioning or performance, like at school or at work, or if you're quitting things that you used to love, like sports or school, or having difficulty performing tasks that were easy for you in the past. You might be experiencing problems with your thinking or concentration, memory, things that are different and hard to explain that were simple in the past. Or you might be experiencing increased sensitivity, sight, sound, smells, touch, and avoiding those sensations. Or you might notice apathy, where you have a loss of initiative or no desire to participate in any activities, or just feeling disconnected. It could be vague, feeling disconnected from yourself or your surroundings. Other things that might pinpoint an issue are illogical thinking, sort of unusual or exaggerated beliefs that you didn't have before, so-called magical thinking of childhood now coming into your adult life. It could be a sense of nervousness, a fear or suspiciousness of others, or just other unusual behaviors. Those are all sort of different things that might be indicators of a mental illness developing.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. There's a technical issue. Go back and forth. It's going blind. And I'm sorry, viewers, but we got this under control.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next question.
Oh yeah, our next question is going to be, you've said it's kind of related to the first one, that where can we get help, but maybe this time around, who are the designated helpers? What are the differences among them? I know we might have different helpers maybe within the community, that has been designated to help, that has been designed to help people. Can you please state them if you have their details, maybe their telephone number?
Sure. There's, I don't have, well, I'll maybe explain the different types of helpers out there. And there's a wide range. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, it can start with just your peer connections, peer supports, family members, natural supports. But beyond that, there's actual counselors, clinicians, and therapists and pastors that can all sort of help with mental health and connecting one with resources and getting help. There are medical doctors and psychiatrists that work with the medication side of things to help with symptoms going on. And related to that, there could be psychiatric or mental health nurses or nurse practitioners, assisting physicians and care plans for clients. There's, of course, the family doctors that can make referrals to specialists or to psychiatrists. There's pharmacists that understand the different medications and their side effects and navigating all of those systems. There's a whole range of crisis supports, in the city that can help with someone in immediate crisis. There's emergency rooms. Those are sort of the main helpers out there that work in the mental health system. And one thing that's new, or a new body that's developing, associated with, sort of self-help groups are actual peer support workers that work alongside the professionals. They can help someone or they can help because they can identify having similar conditions and lived experiences that they can share and set one at ease in working towards recovery.
Mm. 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 Yeah. So once again, do encourage you to please help share. You don't know who you might help with this information, and just let someone know. Share within your network and let them know that we are live here with Greg Nyobole. Okay, and then we are talking on the part one on understanding mental health, part one. Okay, right, Greg. The next question here that I have for you will be: the current system is based on the idea of diagnosing and treating mental disorders. How can I go about it?
Yeah, we use sort of a traditional Western medical model when it comes to treating mental illness and diagnosing it. And like I mentioned earlier, there's no real blood test or X-ray or diagnostic test that can necessarily reveal a mental illness. So a lot of, at the initial end, when someone is presenting with symptoms of mental health, is to try and identify those symptoms, because they can be similar for different mental health conditions. So a lot of time is necessary to sort of go through all of the different symptoms just to get an idea of what type of category of mental illness that one might fall into. And there's sort of broad categories. One sort of larger cluster could be depression disorders. There could be anxiety. Well, and depression, I should say, is sort of maybe a tendency to worry or focus on one's past and ruminate on that and sort of shut down from one's future. Anxiety disorders, on the other hand, are worrying about the future. So that could be anything from panics to like a panic disorder, or phobias of certain things, fear of certain things, or social anxiety, fear of being with others, sort of that spectrum of conditions. There could be obsessive compulsive disorders that involve worry about repetitive behaviors, for example. There are mood disorders, of which depression is a type, but there's also bipolar disorder, where one's moods can fluctuate from being very down, low, and depressed to almost a mania or hyperactive state. And then it's recognized there's post-traumatic stress disorder, where trauma, physical, emotional, affects the whole body, and just sounds and sights can trigger back memories of the traumatic event. Then there's other conditions like schizophrenia that involve difficulty differentiating between what's imaginary and reality, and symptoms of either seeing visions or hearing voices. So it's very complex, and the doctors or therapists will actually need to spend a fair bit of time understanding those symptoms and how exactly they present. There's also eating disorders that you think it's about food, but they're really more complex than that, and results in tying in emotions with our food. And there's even a cluster called sort of childhood disorders that involves younger onset, such as ADHD or autism type of conditions. And then we think of dementia as well. That's a type that tends to affect older adults with time, and affects memory and language and concentration. And Alzheimer's disease is a category there. So there's a huge range of types of mental illness, and that those all require examination of the symptoms to narrow it down. So not a quick thing where you can go in an afternoon and come out with an answer. This could be a process that takes weeks or months to properly diagnose it, and then if medication is involved, that could take months to years to get a perfect combination for your unique body. So not a simple thing to deal with.
That's real deep. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of information.
That's a lot of information. Yes. Wow. That's a lot of information. Yeah. So,
And the next question is, if I engage a mental health service provider, I'm likely to receive a diagnosis of a mental disorder and be labeled. So how can I think about this?
Yes, mental health has a lot of stigma associated with it in our society, and a lot of people are afraid to, if they fear they might have a mental illness, they're afraid to step forward and seek help because of all of the stigma that goes with labels. So I like to reflect that, or I think of the words in Psalms where God tells us, or in response to God, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know that full well. So I would recommend going into this journey, just acknowledging that to God, that we have been created as, in His unique way, and for a unique journey that He has in mind for us. And then to start sort of exploring that system to figure out that diagnosis and seek help, like I mentioned previously.
wow. Yeah. So, thank you, Greg. I'll go to the next question now. But before that, please do not hesitate to share this. I will always refer to this. Please share it. These are information that they're valuable, and then it's needed,
Yes.
right? It's needed. And then you don't know how you can help someone, and by sharing it within your network, let them know that we're live and we're talking about understanding mental health part 1 with Greg Nyobole. Okay, thank you very much, Greg. Now, Greg, what about antidepressants, psychiatric medications, and so on? Should I fear using those chemicals?
Yes and no. I say no in the sense that the goal of using medication is to get help for your symptoms. So some mental health diagnoses are due to chemical imbalances in the brain, and that can definitely be helped with medication. Others situations might be due to feelings of guilt or bitterness or unresolved pain or trauma or unforgiveness. And so just as someone with diabetes would use insulin to help them, we would, or I would counsel them to use their insulin for their diabetes rather, or I would say that's one of the tools that God is giving to deal with that situation.
Okay.
And but likewise, really medication can be a big help. But like I said, it's a complicated process to pinpoint exactly the right type of medication. So for example, if someone is dealing with depression, There's probably a dozen or more different types of medication that can be used to treat that. And so the doctor will begin trialing some of those. And medications for depression can take months to achieve the right dosage level in your body. So it's not an instant fix. It requires patience and much communication with your doctor to carefully explain what symptoms you have. Some people may find that the medications make them feel drowsy, zoned out, or like a zombie. So yes, there is a sense to have some fear about trying these medications, but the best thing to do is keep communicating how they're reacting with the doctor so that the right medication can be found. And some people that might be a quick process, and by quick I mean a few months. Others, it could take years. So it really is a long journey that requires, just sticking to it, holding on to God in that journey, and finding the solutions. But again, my advice would be to communicate well. If something is not working, describe the symptoms accurately, keep a journal, and communicate with your doctor or health provider. So to answer the question, should I be afraid of using those medicines? Not necessarily afraid, but informed of the process that is involved, and then with prayer and guidance to find the right solution.
Oh,
Yeah. Can I just ask a question regarding the medication? Is there a particular time in their life that they're gonna go off those medication? Because I think at times I hear people saying maybe they might be on that medication for the rest of their lives. Is it true?
It's possible for some people, definitely, yes.
hmm.
Wow.
Just as if you have diabetes, you will need insulin for the rest of your life. So you need to look at it like that.
Hmm.
And be thankful that there is a medication solution.
That's right. Hmm. Yeah. And
And what I often see with many clients, actually, to go to your question, Kemi, is people will take medication and they will say, "Hey, I am feeling great now. I don't need this medicine anymore." And then they stop taking it, and a few months later they crash. And I see a lot of these cycles where that can happen. And the danger is that every time you go through one of those cycles, the next cycle is a little more difficult to resolve and takes longer. So again, I recommend that rather than abruptly stopping a medication, talk to your doctor. That's very important.
hmm. Hmm.
Okay. And so, sorry, one other question. You are a Christian, right? Or maybe a faith-based person. So, what can you say? Some people, when it comes to the medication, they want to apply faith.
Mhm.
Okay. So, when it comes to faith and medication, what is your intake about it? Can I have faith and at the same time say, okay, I want to stop using my medication?
Yeah, that's a good question, but you are leashing it out. Sorry, Greg.
So,
she's just so ready to pour out everything, you
no,
know.
No
But this
worries.
is part one. We're
That is that
understanding
is,
mental illness and mental health.
but
Part
but
two is on the way. Okay, go for it, Greg. Sorry.
but no, that is a normal question, and a legitimate one, especially in any spiritual community. Where do I draw the line between my faith and medicine or science? And
Hmm.
sort of my belief is that God has given us the whole profession of medicine to help us when we need it. And
Hmm.
just as, you know, um, maybe 50 years ago, there might have been stigma to having diabetes, and now that's more common in our life. In fact, my mother developed diabetes when she was a teenager, and this was really at the forefront when insulin was just being discovered, and so she had all of the stigma of having that. The reaction from the church community is, oh, you must be sinning to have a disease like this. And so, that's an example of spiritual trauma. So I believe that, God gives us physicians to help us. And again, whether or not we have a particular condition or illness or situation, I believe that's, a custom journey that God is preparing for us in part of his way of us connecting with him. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I do believe that people can be healed by a miracle, and we shouldn't stop
Absolutely,
praying for
yes. I believe
healing.
in miracles. Yeah.
But I also believe that if God doesn't instantly answer that prayer with a miracle, that he has a better plan or a better purpose for us walking a particular journey.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you
You
so much, Greg. I
really
know we'll still be
answered the
talking more.
question.
Yeah.
No, those are the questions that I just coming up to my mind, which I know they are very, very common, right?
Yeah. And again, if you have a question watching, I want to thank everyone that is watching. I have Romero Angus. Thank you for watching with us. And we are currently on YouTube, our channel. We are currently on YouTube. We are on Twitter. We are on Facebook Live. So you can join and try to send your question. We will be able to read your question as soon as you send your question in. Now, the next question for you, Greg, is what if my circumstances are causing a portion of my emotional pain? What can I think? How can I think about that?
Yeah. I guess when our circumstances are turning what feels like a wrong direction for us, we're really confronted with the reality that we have little control, and we have to face that unknown, and that can cause some worry. But I know and I'm assured that God cares for me, and he's trustworthy to be in control. And he reminds us that he's in control, and we can trust him. So Philippians reminds us, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And we do not, Joshua reminds us, or we're reminded to be strong and courageous, not to be afraid or discouraged, because God will be with us wherever we go. So if there's circumstances going on in our life that are causing emotional pain, again, as I said at the beginning, it's important to reach out to your supports, come up with a plan to work on those circumstances, to get through them, even if it's hour by hour or day by day, and then work on a bigger plan, because with help, those circumstances can change. So again, the important thing is not to be alone and deal with these things alone, to reach out to your community.
Well,
And the next question is kind of a little bit similar to the previous one. So, what if my form personality is causing a portion of my emotional pain?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do about that? How can I think about it?
Yeah. So there's lots of ways to categorize personalities. I guess the most common I think of is introverts versus extroverts, where extroverts are sort of recharged and re-energizing by interacting with other people, whereas introverts get recharged and re-energized by time with themselves doing activities. And sort of what we can really say about personality is, well, a lot of it sort of seems fixed in our development. It can actually change over time in different seasons in our life. And I like to be reminded of sort of the fruit of the spirits, as mentioned in Galatians. Fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And that, as we grow in our spiritual journey, we try and develop those attributes in our lives. And those should be sort of outpourings of our personality or our soul, really. We could say that personality is a reflection of our soul, sort of the mental abilities of being a living human, our reason, our character, our feeling, our perceptions, our thinking, all of those aspects of our soul really reflect our personalities and our development, and we grow over time. And I think those in the Christian community, we strive to behave and think like Jesus and to love the way Jesus does. So our personality is part of our creation, how God created us, and to just sort of, I say, embrace that and grow with it and explore. Certainly it can challenge ourselves to, other ways of thinking and growth. So that's what I suggest, not to be burdened by your personality, but to celebrate it for what it is and seek growth.
Amen. Thank you, Greg. Yeah. Yeah. So this question says, if I don't have much meaning or life purpose in my life, how might my emotional pain be related to that?
I think there can be, one can have a lot of emotional pain without having a sense of meaning or purpose in
Mm,
one's life. Um, Purpose, yeah, gives us a sense of meaning, fulfillment, and satisfaction. It helps us to live longer, stay healthier, helps us with dealing with life's hardships, gives us a sense of accomplishment. For youth, a sense of purpose helps to develop one's sense of identity and to shape goals for their future, for deciding about school or career. For older adults, it adds meaning and pleasure to life, a way of serving, a way of growing. Um, there's lots of ways that you can gain purpose in your life or to seek meaning. Some ways are taking some time to actually reflect on the important or what's important to you, important values, maybe even
mm,
journal or write that down. Um, we're all given talents that we can share with others, so we can mentor others with the gifts that we have. We can participate with others. Maybe for an adult, it might be in getting involved in your child's school on the
mm,
advisory board, having some direction there. Again, a big part of purpose is exploring your sense of spirituality, your
mhm,
relationship with God. Um, could be exploring the values and beliefs for your own family.
mm,
Actually taking the time to think about what are the values and beliefs important to us. It could be getting involved with a charity or a cause that's important to you. For example, one of the charities I serve with is Reconciliation Thunder. We're just developing it, and our goal is to create transformative relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians to implement the calls of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And so, that might be one outlet, is to find a charity that's meaningful for you. It could be even investing in a hobby and developing some talents or skills, and sharing your talents that way and teaching others. It could be even assisting a relative or friend or neighbor who needs some form of company or support. It could be connecting with your faith group or spiritual gathering and getting involved in helping others. These things are probably quite important sort of in the pandemic. For myself, one of the ways I sort of work on my own sense of meaning and purpose is through education. Sort of every year there's sort of something new that I might take on. Pandemic made that easier than usual. For me this year, I focused on well at home. I think the first months as a family, we worked on, I think, 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle.
Oh.
that got us talking and together and working on the puzzle. I took up some art. I'll maybe show you a picture. I'm not sure where my camera is. I learned
Did you do that?
how to
Yeah, that was
Zen
awesome.
tangle, it's called. It's a meditative type of pattern drawing that was fun. I treated
That's
myself
beautiful.
to a paint by number kit, so I worked on that.
Wow.
But the idea is to just work on having a purpose. Actually, maybe that's a segue into pathways to good mental health. And there's the WRHA has an actual website. It's called wellbeing.ca. And they have 6 recommendations to well-being or mental health well-being. And one, of course, is being active. So staying active to have a healthy body and a healthy mind. Another way is to be social. It's very important to connect with all of your social networks. That's family, friends, your workplace, your school. That gives you one sense of security, belonging, and happiness. Another one is to be curious, to explore new things. Keeps your brain healthy and makes you resilient. So I was curious about some art stuff this year. In other years, I've done different things. One year I learned about nutrition. One year I learned about physical health and actually certified as a personal trainer. Another year, I learned about a specialty in nursing practice and took up foot care as another way of practicing. So curiosity is definitely a good way to build your resilience. And we've talked about having a sense of purpose, how that can add direction and meaning in your life. And another way is just being positive, being optimistic and grateful, to really focus on seeing the positive things in your life. I've given clients that as a homework assignment to constantly journal the positive things in their life so that when they are down, they can go back to that journal and reflect on it, the activities that were meaningful, and jump back into some of them. So
Awesome. That
yes,
sounds good.
definitely work on having that sense of purpose in your life.
Great. That's really, really in depth. So once again, though we're getting close because of time, but
Yeah.
do not hesitate to go share this, please. You are helping someone out there with this information. That there are things that I'm just hearing now that are really, really, really making a huge sense in me. So please, you can help someone, and the person won't regret uh, getting this information. All right, I will want to go to the next question, Greg. The next question says, how should I conceptualize good
Good man.
mental health?
I think I've sort of jumped into that a little bit in my previous answer, but the World Health Organization defines mental health as, I'll just quote it directly, as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So maybe just to say that in another way is that you're confident, or one way to conceptualize good mental health would be that you're confident when faced with new situations or people, that you feel optimistic, that you're not worried about blaming yourself for things, that you can set goals, that you can feel good about yourself, and that you can have good self-esteem. And again, to have a pathway to good mental health are those 6 points that I mentioned about being active, being social, being curious, being mindful, having a sense of purpose, and being positive. And being mindful, that's one that can be quite helpful if you're, in particular stress. And that's as simple as paying attention to your senses in the here and now. Everything from my sensation sitting in this chair to my breathing, all of those sorts of things. Just paying attention to all of your senses right in the moment, and appreciating being human and breathing.
Awesome. Sounds great. Yeah.
Appreciating being human.
You need to appreciate that,
Yes.
being human.
In
Awesome.
whatsoever situation we find ourselves, I think gratitude is so important.
Yeah. Also, the Bible says, in all things, we
We
should
should
give
give
thanks. Yeah.
thanks. We
In
should
all
give
things,
thanks.
regardless, in all things. Yeah. We should give thanks. So we just need to be thankful to God. Greg, this will be the last
The
question for
last
me.
person,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
It's
And
been
which is, yeah, it's been a great time with
yeah, but
you.
this is part one. So
This is
definitely
part one. Yeah.
Greg is coming back on the
Mhm.
show, and that is when we're gonna go deeper
To
into
the
the
spirituality.
spirituality
I didn't really,
aspect.
I just have a bit knowledge about that until when we got talking and we said, "Oh, Sam, let's split this into two. This is quite a huge thing to deal with." And I start seeing it in another way. Like, whoa, this is bigger. Someone need to hear this. Anyway, to save the time, I'm in a lot of pain and distress right now and need immediate help. What
Yeah.
should I do?
What you should do right now, if you're in distress, is connect with someone. Don't be alone. So reach
Hmm.
out to anyone, family or person you can trust, and share with them what is burdening you. And then beyond that, you may need to connect with some of the crisis services in your area. Here in Winnipeg, we are blessed with some very good crisis services and supports. We have, starting with sort of the mobile crisis service right in Winnipeg that's connected to the crisis response center. Both of
Mhm.
those services are 24/7, every day of the year. You can reach out by phone and explain your situation, and depending what's going on, a team can come directly to you and visit at home or in a nearby place, or you can visit the Crisis Response Center at 817 Bannatyne near the Health Science Center campus. And that's also available 24 hours, and you'll get sort of immediate help to unburden yourself of the situation and get the care that you need. And that could be as simple as talking with the staff and coming up with a plan for next steps together. Or if it's an acute situation, if there's suicidal thoughts involved, there can be a safety plan put together for that. So, or if it's an actual, episode of psychosis, hospital could be involved and arranged. And of course, in addition to these services, you can present to one of the hospitals in the city and likewise get referred. There's various local and international crisis support by telephone, 800 numbers. And so, yeah, going back to the initial question, reach out to someone, get help, and don't fear asking for the help that you need, because there are people ready and able to help get through the situation.
Yeah. So thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that time. Sorry, viewers. There's been the weather. Honestly, the weather. It's so hot that it's getting the cameras and then the devices here really hot, and it's
We're, we're,
displaying. Yeah, that allow the system to cool down. To cool down. Can you
we're,
imagine that?
we're, we're overloading it with the topic, maybe.
Well,
But
but anyways,
I'd like to thank you for the invitation to discuss mental health. And I know that initially, sort of the topic was pandemic mental health and spirituality, and that became almost too much to discuss in one show. So I appreciate being able to share a little bit about some of the basic parts of or basic information about mental health, and then we can maybe have another conversation about spirituality and mental health issues. So I've really had a lot of fun this morning, and thank you for the invitation.
thank you, Greg.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Greg, for honoring our invitation, and to all our viewers out there. We are so thankful that you are able to, watch this episode. Like we have been saying, just keep on sharing this, because you never know who might really be in need of this.
that's right.
And he has said it all. We are all in this pandemic together. And number one, just be thankful.
Mhm.
And if you need any help, reach out to
Reach out
people.
to people. Yeah.
Don't be ashamed.
Mm.
Just pick up your phone, call someone, speak to a friend. Back again. Woo.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
It keeps
No
going off
matter
and
what's
on.
happening,
It,
we're gonna deal with this.
it's
We're
just
unstoppable.
it's just a circumstance. No worries.
Circumstance. Yeah.
And with this, so many lights on.
Yeah.
So
Anyways,
that
thank you, Greg. Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Greg, for this time. Really, honestly, I'm super happy, and
we
we
are
are
happy
grateful. It's a pleasure, honor to have you discuss this. And then I look forward to next time. You know what, friends? Thank you for joining. Wherever you've joined from, thank you. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, United States of America, UK,
Africa,
Africa, any part of the world
any part of
that
the
you've
world.
joined this show from. We really appreciate you. And you know what? Do us a favor by sharing it. Sharing it, and the video will still be there. We are live on YouTube, and it will still be on YouTube, Facebook Live, and then Twitter. We are there. So the best way, share it, and then that way you're helping someone out there, someone who is in need of information to help them out of the mental illness, the mental whatever mental states that they're in. Okay, all right.
Stay positive.
Stay
Thanks so
positive.
much. Take
Thank you,
care.
Greg.
Thank you,
Really
Greg.
appreciate you.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
and
See
every
you
other one.
again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Until then, to make our world a better place,
Yes.
keep living the best that you can. Okay? See you next time on
Thank you.
Director Distractor. Bye bye.